Welcome to the Campervan Casts, the podcast where Dan and Lee will take you step by step through the process of choosing, buying, repairing, maintaining and converting your very own campervan, all via the wonderful medium of audio. And we're going to be filming it too, so you can watch it on the Coombe Valley Campers YouTube channel. This week on the Campervan Cast will be a campervan buying guide.
Absolutely. So last week we had Ryan from RDL talking to us about what to look for when you're picking a vehicle.
The actual van.
Yes.
Yep.
And this week we are delving more into accessories and bolt-ons for a campervan and the inside of that vehicle as well.
Yeah, definitely had to break this down into two parts, didn't we?
Yeah.
Because we really wanted to just... Well, it's been that way from the start. We've had this huge array of subjects we wanted to talk to everybody about, and quite quickly we realised we needed more than a 45-minute to an hour slot to actually discuss things. So we've now broken the actual process of buying the vehicle into two parts.
Yeah. And even that has been quite tight today. Now, we don't script these, as we've said before, and today we have written down all the key points
So
earlier on of what we need to mention, just so we don't forget anything.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it.
And there's a lot, isn't there? There's a lot to check, and there's a lot that you need to be sort of considering. And it also depends on, I think, what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And now, one thing I was thinking was, if you're not looking for a project and you turn up and you find a vehicle that maybe is a project,
Yeah,
then you can just walk away.
absolutely.
So, yeah, there's lots to
You've got to
consider.
be strict.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things as well. We didn't mention it last week, but you're not you don't have to make the purchase. If there's something telling you that you definitely don't want to buy that vehicle, there's nothing stopping you from sort of turning around and walking away. Obviously, I've had it before where I've bought a vehicle and the person's going, "Oh, if I sell it to you at that, I'm making a loss." And it's like, it's not. At the end of the day, that's not your problem.
You are there to buy a vehicle for you.
Yeah.
You're not there to appease the salesman. You're not there to appease whoever you're with. It's down to the van. But before we get into any of it, it is the 22nd of February. And if you're in the UK and you're listening to this, you know that we've been under lockdown for a little bit. And we might actually be getting some news that we might actually be able to start living a bit of a life of normality again.
Yeah, so the press conference comes out this evening, and this goes live on Thursday. So when this comes out, the decision will already be made. So do we need to do... Shall we do 20 different outcomes quickly, and then we can dub in the right one?
I don't know if we'll have time for that. But no, I'm hoping that...
Our predictions.
I'm hoping that we can just start going out and enjoying our vans again.
Yeah, just a bit of normality, especially the people that are on their own. It's obviously been a lot tougher for them if you've been stuck indoors. So it's a difficult time for some people. So yeah, hopefully... Yeah, a little bit more back to 2019, I guess.
I hope so. Okay, maybe leave that down in the comments. Where will you go when you're allowed to take your van out again? Where will you go?
That's a good one.
I think, yeah.
Where would you go, Lee?
I might tell you what. My wife went to, in between the lockdowns we had last year, my wife went to North Wales. And I've spent a lot of time in North Wales back in my military training days, because we'd walk over the mountains, or we'd do what's known as adventure training up there. We'd do lots of caving, kayaking, all sorts of stuff, mountain walking. And I was at one point an instructor in mountain walking, so I know the area. And ever since my wife went up there last year to do the big zip line, what's it called? I can't remember it.
Something like that. It goes like 100 miles an hour.
It's like a 100 mile an hour zip line, and she did it. And she really wants to do it again. And she actually bought me the same experience as a gift for either Christmas or birthday. I can't remember which. My birthday and Christmas were quite close together. And yeah, so when we're allowed to go away in the UK again, I definitely want to go back up to North Wales. So if anybody's listening from North Wales and they want to, recommend maybe a campsite or something that we can go to, definitely go up. I mean, I'm a big lover of Wales anyway, but she definitely wants to go back. We've got a ticket to go to that zip line again, so yeah.
There's no expiry on that, is there?
I hope not. Hopefully we can at least
valid
use
for 30
it.
days.
Yeah, we can hopefully at least use it within the year. And what about you? So if we were to get relieved of our restrictions tomorrow, where would you go? Where'd you go camping?
So if it was tomorrow, where would I go camping? I quite like the local spots.
Yeah.
We've got some, where we are in the southeast, we've got some really nice places that you can go to. Up to Buell Water's a nice little drive. I would love to go up to the Lake District. Never been up there. So that's one place. The one thing I was thinking of was I've still got tickets for Bug Jam.
Oh,
so that's one of those things.
One of my favourites.
Yeah, I bought those beforehand, and obviously they roll it on, and it would just be nice to be able to use those. And
that's going to be the case with a lot of people who have had tickets for shows for 2020, and even a couple, the show organisers out there. And we've got buddies who are we've got buddies who are show organisers, and they've had to keep rolling things, and it doesn't look like shows are going to be on this year either. Potentially by the end of the year, depending on how, I guess, vaccinations and stuff go on. But
yeah, it's a difficult one to predict, isn't it? But from our point of view, is if you've bought those tickets, where they were so long ago now, it's sort of when you get around to going, I almost feel like you're there for a bit like sort of free, because it's so long ago since you bought the ticket. But
that's right.
Yeah, it's so that's one of the things I'm looking forward to.
But saying that, I don't even have a campervan that's on the road at the moment. That's built.
A couple in progress. Yeah. So
So I took my van off the road. Gosh, over a year ago now, and we were meant to get it built last year. Wasn't really worth it. Want to get it built this year. Are we going to get it done to the standard we want to? I don't know. So if the restrictions do get lifted, I don't even have a campervan to go away in per se.
No, but you've said before you don't mind slumming it in a tent and with just your toothbrush. I remember you saying in recent weeks. So we're going to hold you to that.
Yeah,
when it's chucking it down,
we'd like to get the double cab done and up and running, so we can at least use that as our adventure wagon.
Yeah,
good 5-seater vehicle. We can chuck the mountain bikes in the back. We can chuck a paddleboard in the back. Yeah, I really look forward to going away in that. Absolutely. So, I'm now thinking about it. I'm just thinking about going away camping with the kids because they absolutely love going away as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's sort of telling them that you still can't do it and stuff. It's just sort of trying to explain everything. But yeah, there is light at the end of a tunnel, we hope. So,
we hope. So by 6 p.m. this evening, or by the time you listen to this, you may well have an answer or a result. So let's just hope things are going on. So yeah, we won't talk about the actual situation. We will just continue to talk about what we're going to do and enjoy. Oh yeah, just thinking about it now. Absolutely thinking about it. But it's a really good thing to aim for if you are looking at buying a campervan, obviously, and we discussed this right at the beginning. Lots of people don't have that option now of going away on holiday that they may have done in years previous. So owning a van, converting a van, going away in a van is their next best option. And so we want to talk to everybody today about what to look out for when buying a campervan.
Absolutely.
Last week was the van, this week is the camper.
Yep. And one thing we have done this week is we put out a little poll on our Patreon page, which I'd like to mention. So if you are on our Patreon page, you may have seen it. We put it out earlier today, which is the Monday of recording. And we basically asked the people on there a question we thought we knew the answer to, which turns out we did, is sort of what sort of state the vehicle was in when they bought it, whether they bought an empty van, a partly converted van, a fully converted camper van, or a restoration project.
Sorry, say those ones again. There's 4 options.
Yes, so an empty panel van, ready to do yourself, a partly converted camper van, so maybe like a day van or a combi or something that's sort of half there, a fully converted camper van all ready to go the next day, or a complete restoration project. Well, that's hard to say. I'm going to leave that one there. We've had 15 votes in total. What do you think the main summary of that was?
Whoa. People who watch this channel, I reckon maybe empty van, because if you're a supporter of this channel at all, you like the element of building your own, I'd say. Is that what we are?
Yeah, so that was 12 votes for empty van.
Really?
None partly converted, none ready to go, and 3 project. So
brilliant.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually to sort of
restoration project. There was 3 people doing a couple
of those as well. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
And we've asked for their stories of why they chose that as well. So we've got a couple that we're going to drop in.
Go ahead.
Throughout. We've got one. The first one here was from Al Murray, who has been one of our patrons for a couple of months now.
Yes.
It's been on the
sir. How
Q&A
are you?
a few times, and he was on the lookout for a van for 2 years. So was really spending a good amount of time.
I think that's really sensible.
Yeah, he didn't go and buy one straight away.
Certainly didn't have his rose-tinted specs on.
Yeah, so I'm going to read exactly what he said. So it's been a dream not only to own one, but to convert one as well. Finally found a decent van without the Starship mileage, so fairly low miles, and he got his hands on a 2007 T5. He has a young family and would like to make some memories with them, so he thought, why not? As always, he was late to the party. So with lockdown, all the suppliers had sort of quite long waiting times. But then, followed our videos and had used some of the companies we've promoted, such as Deadening, Rain Automotive, Evo Designs, Custom Shop Designs, and this is the most important bit, so far, so good.
Yay!
So it's all on track.
Well done, Al.
And he's just hoping to get it all done and ready for the good weather. So that's a nice story to hear.
Absolutely. Talking of weather, we've just had a wonderful weekend of weather down here in the southeast, haven't we? Managed to get away. Felt like a breath of fresh air to have a nice weekend.
You made the most of it, didn't
Absolutely, we went walking, ended up at a nudist beach. Not intentionally, but...
It's a bit cold for that, wasn't it?
Yeah. There was a brave soul completely in the nud down there as well.
Really?
About 3 o'clock. It must have been maximum about 15 degrees.
Are you talking about yourself in third person again?
No. But very brave bloke. And luckily, when we walked down onto the beach, we certainly steered the kids away from that direction.
Nothing to see here.
Yeah, absolutely. But definitely waiting for the finer weather and obviously the restrictions to be eased. Can't wait for that. But no, that's a great first point there, I think. Patience.
Yep.
Now, I know that vans are at a premium. I know vans are in high demand at the moment. So your pickings are slim. However, that shouldn't deter you from holding out a little bit to buy the right van.
Yeah, I think from the start we've said, don't go and buy the first thing you see if you're not sure on it. Yes, you can get a good one, but there's no rush. And I think that's the thing with stuff like camping. If you miss it the first year, there's always next year.
Absolutely.
And depending on how you build your van, you might even be able to take it out in the winter as well.
Well, and if you're late to the game, say you don't find the right van till late summer, you can always just throw a mattress in, one of these blow-up mattresses, and just get out there and just enjoy a campsite, whatever it may be. But no, I think that's a great first point. Just be patient with it. And so we're looking today then. Last week was the van, how to buy the actual vehicle, and that will cover a lot of people who are listening to this maybe because they are just looking for the van to buy.
Yeah.
And I make no apology, but we didn't go into the specifics of what to look for when buying a vehicle because that can change for each vehicle. So if you're buying a 40-year-old T3, you're buying a 30-year-old Transit, or you're buying a 5-year-old T5, T6, there's all going to be different things to look out for and specifics to look out for. So we're not going to cover that today either. What we are going to cover is the specifics to look at if you're buying a camper van in particular. So we're not going to concentrate on mechanical. We're not going to concentrate on bodywork. But we are going to concentrate on the specifics. And you have come prepared with a list.
Yeah, I've got a few notes. And actually, what you've just said about not going into each sort of specific vehicle is a really good point because they fail in different places. Yep. I know some of the older Transits, the front doorsteps are a really known place. Some of the older camper vans, it's under the windscreen.
Yep.
And there are a lot of resources online for those vehicles. There's forums, there's Facebook pages, and there's so much information. So if you are after a vehicle in particular, have a look at what goes wrong with those, and then when you're looking at one, you can take that into account as well.
Or you can take somebody who knows those vehicles very well.
Specialists,
yeah. So, we covered that in the last one. Ryan mentioned that, didn't he? That, take your vehicle to a specialist. And I think that's a great first point. If we're just covering the vehicles again, we want to highlight that if you are unsure about the vehicle and, its mechanics in particular, get a specialist, and B, get an independent inspection by the likes of the AA or the RAC. Might be the best 150 quid you've ever spent.
Yeah. So moving on to the camper element itself, we're going to start with the outside of a vehicle.
Yes.
Because that's how we want to separate it to start off with, because obviously if we just go in with the first thing we think of, we're going to be going from left to right and up and down and all sorts. So we're going to stay with the outside because there's quite a lot of additional extras you can get with a camper van on the outside. The first one is fiberglass, either pop top roofs or
Yeah.
fiberglass high top roofs. So what would you look out for with those?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say don't trust the postage stamp size picture you've seen on your phone, on your eBay listing, on your Facebook listing. If you can, try and view the vehicle in person, and if you can't, get some detailed photographs from the seller. And if they're a decent seller, they should be very happy to send you those pictures. But yeah, starting with the roof then. So yeah, we're going to methodically work around a van here so we don't lose track of it. So yeah, starting with the roof, if you have a van with an elevated roof, we're going to start with a fiberglass high top. And this can cover anything from, again, like a Ford Transit or an older VW. A fiberglass elevated roof is designed to provide you with more standing space in your van, and they come with their own sets of problems. The first off being is the condition of the fiberglass. They seldom get cleaned properly because they're so high and they're quite difficult to clean. They quite often get damaged by low-lying branches.
I've seen a lot of ones with big dents in them.
That's right, and they very often get repaired poorly by the home mechanic trying to patch up a dent in the roof. So you're looking, first of all, at the overall condition of that fiberglass high top or that fiberglass cap, and you're also looking at the topmost point of that fiberglass cap, which is more than likely going to be a skylight of some sort. Skylights are known to leak. The polyurethane or silicon sealant that's used to waterproof those, again, because they're seldom cleaned, can degrade over time. It can also have a leak potentially. That again might have been disguised by patches and patches and patches of silicon. Someone's gone up there to try and patch it over and over, or the actual cap itself might be cracked. So a good place to look at, if you can, is start with right at the top of the vehicle, have a look at the condition of the fiberglass top. If there's anything bolted to it potentially, such as a solar panel, check that the solar panel's in good condition. If it's damaged, broken, or even partly missing, because again they can be the first things to get hit or damaged. But definitely the cap of the skylight is very important. We'll move into the inside later, but operation of that skylight is very important because a lot of them are open, don't they?
And I think as well with if it's got a leak and stuff on the outside, sometimes you won't be able to tell, but I mean, as you said earlier, if the sealant's all looking a bit loose, or if it's got maybe scratch marks, or if it's falling apart in places, then that's a key point. And I think as well, just straight away, I think if you are looking at an older vehicle, it is likely that might be the case. And if everything else is absolutely perfect, apart from it's got a bit of a dodgy skylight or something, it could be quite a simple fix if you're looking at doing a bit of a project on it. I mean, the skylights themselves sort of range anywhere between sort of £40 and £100. So it's
Depending on the size,
it's not a
and
massive ticket item. So if it hasn't done too much damage already and you are fairly handy and would like a bit of a project, don't write off a vehicle maybe just because it's...
Have we done a skylight video? We haven't yet, have we?
No, we haven't.
Maybe we shall.
Yeah.
And then we can do that in the future.
Yeah.
So, great place to start, definitely with the roof. Now, on T3s or Type 25s, depending on what you call them, a fiberglass roof can be also a source of leak and or body rot on the roof of the vehicle that it is sealed to or screwed to. These vans now are getting to 35, 40 years old, and if water gets underneath that fiberglass cap, water and dirt will harbour under there, and then when the vehicle moves and the fiberglass moves a little bit, they will rub onto one another. They will slowly wear the paint away from the metal. They will then rust the metal, and you can end up with big gaping holes in your roof or zero gutters. So I've seen a lot of camper vans that have the fiberglass tops. They've had them on for 35 years. Water's got in and done its best at rotting out your roof. So definitely, obviously we'll move inside later again, like I've said, but signs of damp or discoloured carpet on the inside of a vehicle is a potential sure sign that your roof is leaking. So yeah, they're the bits and pieces, I think, on a fiberglass high top.
And obviously the fiberglass... other areas could be on a pop top.
That's
potentially.
Right.
So the tops of them are more often not fiberglass.
Yep.
In one form or another. So with the pop top, there's a couple of things you need to check, isn't there? There was, firstly, the top of it, like you've just mentioned.
Exactly
with those,
the same way. Yeah, check for damage, dirt, debris. Potentially, you've got skylight in it. Check all of those as well.
Yep, and then the actual lifting mechanism that go basically try and get it up and see how it.
Hydraulic struts.
That was poorly worded.
Hydraulic struts, hinges. They can all wear out.
Yeah.
If they're not maintained, they're not cleaned. Yes, the hydraulic struts can wear and be very difficult to get it up. I can't believe my alarm's just gone off. Do apologise, everybody. So, yes, there's a lot of things to look at with the mechanism itself, even the locking mechanism. You know, on some of these older vans, the locking mechanisms have been repaired more than once or they've been bodged. So if you are going out to view a vehicle and it has a pop top or an elevating roof of some sort, definitely make sure that's pushed up into its topmost position,
and ask for them to do it as well. Because
a demonstration.
Yeah, a demonstration, because they're not all the same. So this one that you're looking at might be a particularly strange way to use it, and the previous owner will know how to do that anyway, and it might save you 20 minutes on the campsite trying to work it out.
And also check that you're strong enough, because I've had to deal with that as well.
Yeah.
And like all of these comments that we're saying and all these observations we are talking to you about today are based on what we've seen on campervans in the past. You know, between us, we've worked on, I'm not going to say hundreds, but you know, over 100 vans in the last 5 years, and they've all got their own differences. And we've heard from all of the owners of those vans about what they find difficult or annoying with the van. And one of them, in particular, is the fact that the mechanism for the roof was so heavy to lift up. They wanted us to replace the struts and all this, that, and the other. So definitely an operational check on the roof.
Yeah.
Because you might be too small to lift up the roof, or you might be too small to bring it back down again. Absolutely, do a functional check of that roof for sure.
Yeah, because that's something you probably wouldn't think of when you're going and viewing a vehicle.
And what the owner might do is go, roof goes up, roof comes down, it's fine.
Yeah.
But they might know the quirks of getting that roof up and down, and when it comes to, like you say, being in a campsite, all of a sudden, you know, it's gale force wind or whatever it may be, or it's lashing down hard, you've got no option but to put the pop top up, and all of a sudden, boom, you can't do it. Because
we found that when we went camping, there was a break between the two lockdowns, and we sat up, we got our awning out, your awning that I borrowed.
Oh yeah.
And we were sat there, and a T5 pulled up, and they were having some, it looked fairly new, it was probably their first out, and they looked like they were having some proper issues with it, and everyone was going to me, you're going to go and help them, you're going to help them. And I was like, I'll give them a minute, and after a while they got it.
Oh really?
And they
Excellent.
sorted it out, and they had their evening.
That's what
there.
convinces some people to actually buy a camper van, isn't it? In a different situation, you might spend 3 hours trying to put up this tent.
Yeah.
Then you're sat there after you've put up your tent after fighting with it for 3 hours, and then all of a sudden, Mr. and Mrs. Blogs turn up next door, turn up with their van, pull out the deck chairs and drink a beer. They're done and set up in 5 minutes. So I understand entirely what you mean there. But no, going back to the pop tops, the canvas.
Yes, which is the main one, because if it is torn or damaged, they're not,
or mouldy or rank,
they're not super expensive, but they're potentially more expensive than you might have thought for a bit of canvas at the end of the day.
It can be a deal breaker.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because especially if you've got an older vehicle like the Rymo roofs and stuff, you can only get sort of original ones for it, or sort of custom made ones. So it's not a fact of there's a hole, I can patch it up.
Yeah.
Technically, I guess if you wanted to do a quick fix, you could, but the condition of that actual canvas is very important. Yeah,
Rymos on the older T4s, for example, they go damp and horrible right in the back of the roof.
Yeah.
So it's definitely things to look out for. And yes, worst case scenario, getting a replacement canvas and then having someone replace it could set you back $1,000.
Yeah.
All in with labour and parts. And it's that's not a bad. Yes, it's a lot of money, of course it is. But to make your van waterproof and comfortable.
Again, it goes back to the thing, is if you've got the budget in it and that's the only thing wrong with it, then it needs to be taken into account. Maybe come away from there and go, okay, well, I'll think about it. Have a look online, how much it's going to cost for a new canvas roof, and then you can make the decision. And the places, potentially if they've got opening windows or any zips, make sure they're all in good condition. Because if you've got a 40-year-old zip, it might get stuck. Or
it's been bodged.
Yeah, where the... what
The
they call
hinge?
the hinges. Yes, that's
Yeah.
the one where the hinges meet the canvas. That's another place that can easily
the
get
hinges can act like
the
scissors.
Yeah. So they can cut straight through it. So that's another place to look
definitely
at.
do an operational check. And again, if the owner is or the owner or the buyer, the seller, if the seller is a good one, they will let you mess around with it for as long as necessary.
Yeah.
If they want that sale and they're asking good money for a vehicle, for sure they'll let you just do what you want with it. Should let you do what you want with it. And also another place to check for cleanliness is around the base of the canvas. Say if that van's been laid up for 6 months and they haven't even lifted the roof, there'll be a whole load of dirt and leaves and crap all sitting around underneath that fiberglass cap, and that can then have an effect on the canvas too.
Yeah.
And you're looking at the sealant around the canvas. Again, we could go deep into it, but in reality, if you need a canvas replaced, you could be looking at up to £1,000.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to check. And also, all of these things that we're telling you today, they could be like bartering points.
Yes.
If you've got this list, and what we could do, and what I think we should do, is transcribe what we're talking about today and make it into a list of things for you to check, almost a tick list.
Yeah.
If you're going to look out in a van and look for a van, I don't know, whoever's listening might be very busy with a pencil and paper right now, going, right, okay, got to check this, got to check, which is great. But yes, you've got to check these things, because at the end of the day, if there's a tick next to one, that's not a bartering point. But if this is damaged, or that's damaged, or the hinges are broken, or the canvas is whatever it may be, that is a good bartering point. If they're asking for top money or top whack for this camper van,
and if they're selling it as, it's got a fully working pop top, and you can see that one of the hinges doesn't work and there's a massive hole in it, it's not
and
fully
with
working.
everything we talk about today, this could all be. Obviously, we're not trying to make it hard work for the sellers, but if you're a good seller, you would have this sorted before you even put the damn thing up.
Yeah.
Or your price reflects the damage and the discrepancies that vehicle may have. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Just making it hard for everybody and easier at the same time.
And after that influx of information, I think we'll take a little break to go over one of the patrons again.
So we've gone over, just to recap then, we've gone over the roof. So fiberglass roof, you're looking at the condition of the actual fiberglass itself, whether it's clean, whether it's serviceable, whether it's not damaged. You're looking at the caps. And when it comes to the pop top, you're looking at the mechanism, the canvas itself, and the condition of the bodywork around that as well, because the last thing you want it to do is leak.
Yeah.
Super.
Because that then causes loads more problems down the line and could ultimately affect everything inside.
And incur more expense.
Yeah. So our next Patreon little story is from Jamie Hill, and I don't think he participated in the poll, because his first line is he doesn't own a van yet. So what he's actually doing is what we've said to do, is to do all the research beforehand. So he's watching our videos to see what he can and can't do. And I'm hoping he's listening here now.
Hi, Jamie.
He's looking to get a Type 25 project this year. He's looking forward to the hours of cruising, and then, oh no, I've read that wrong. Cursing, bruised knuckles, blood, sweat and tears. That was a weird line if it said cruising, but yeah, he's prepared for a fight.
He's prepared to get, roll up his sleeves, get his hands dirty and get that fixed. No, good man.
Yeah, and he's just saying he's watched the channel and he's hopefully that one day he'll have a project that he can be proud of.
We say he could be a lady. I don't know. Could it? Jamie?
Doesn't? Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, didn't think about he or she.
So, Jamie, whoever you are, good luck with that. And I'm glad that the videos and information we have given you is of help.
Yes. So we can do another one of those, or we can move on.
I think let's move on to the next one. What are we on now?
So we're still on the outside, and we are talking about awnings.
Yes.
Now, I've seen a couple of campervan sales where they've got a driveway awning included in the sale. Because obviously, if you're selling a campervan and you're not planning on getting another one, the driveway awning isn't much use to you. They do go for a lot of money new driveway awnings. They range again, don't they? You can between 100 and 600. Is that a good
I would
range?
say that is a good top end for a driveway awning. And for those who don't know, a driveway awning looks like a tent. Looks like a big dome tent.
Yeah.
And what it will do, it's called drive away, because you can erect the tent next to your van and then attach the awning to your van via an awning rail, a C-channel rail. And then what it's designed to do is slide off the side. The attachment is designed to slide off the side of your van, and then you can take your van out away for the day, whether you're going to a tourist spot or going out adventuring or going out walking, whatever it may be. And then when you pull up next to your or back to your pitch on your campsite or wherever you may be, you can then just rock up back to that awning and have your little area of what am I trying to say? Your base.
Yeah, you're extending your camper van area, aren't
That's
you?
right. Yeah,
it's almost double the size.
Say you go away with a van full of stuff, including the awning. You can then move that stuff out of the awning, so you can go out in a fairly empty vehicle for the day. So yeah, lots of advantages to having a driveway awning. But yes, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, so with the driveway awnings, I think if they're selling it as part of the vehicle, if they're sort of the price doesn't reflect it and they're sort of throwing it in, then yeah, that's a bonus. But if the price reflects that they're saying, well, it's got a £400 awning included, I'd personally want to see that put up as well.
Sure.
Because if I'm paying £400 for an awning that's maybe worth 600, I'd like it to reflect that 400 price. So I'd like to get it, make sure all the poles are there, make sure it works, make sure there's no big rips in it. Because if you're buying from private and the awning's thrown in, it's, oh great, you leave it in the van for 6 weeks, months, year, however long it is until you use it, and then when you put it up, you realise there's no poles, there's no pegs, and there's a massive
sat wet in a bag for 6 months.
Ripped, then it's not worth 400.
Generally speaking, with a driveway awning, they're thrown into the deal.
Yeah.
For the most part, but yeah,
You've got
you're
to,
right in what you're
make
saying.
sure.
If it is, a high-end ticket item, and it's actually reflecting in the price of the vehicle, you would want to see it. No, absolutely. But the other option is obviously the wind-out awning or the pull-out awning.
Yeah,
and that can come in one of a few variations, kind of. So you can have a cassette type awning, which is wind out, and that looks like a
cassette.
No. The way I think about a cassette is something you'd stick into a hi-fi back in the day. But no, the cassette awning is basically a solid rectangular cuboid box on the side of your van, and you will stick like a wind out or a winding handle into the side of that, and it can pull out from the side of the van anywhere up to 2.5-3 meters. And they're excellent for providing some shelter from the rain or the sun or whatever it may be, but they can be quite easily damaged by driving away and not realising you still got it out, which I've seen done before. It can be damaged by the wind or whatever it may be, or the actual awning box can be damaged by some low hanging branches as you're driving around. You can actually damage the cassette, and I've seen motorhome specialists with piles of these things set out because people have put them away incorrectly, or they've been damaged whilst out camping and they just get replaced on warranty. So you can actually come across them, like piles of them, at motorhome specialists who do things like insurance work and stuff like that. So yes, when you are looking at a van with a cassette type awning, check that it folds out all the way and goes in all the way, and that all the items are there and that it's all working correctly. And it's the same with the wind out ones. They are very similar to the rollout non-cassette type awnings, and they work in a very similar manner, but they are not in a box, like a solid box. They're in almost like a zip-up bag. And you unzip the bag and you physically roll out the awning with its poles, and then you will erect the poles and the guy ropes again to make a short-term shelter. Really, they're not designed to be up for days and days and days, but they can be.
Yeah, and
but again, check they all work. And
because you're preventing sort of hidden surprises down the line. To wind out a awning's only going to take a couple of minutes. Just make sure the legs are there and there's nothing missing.
Absolutely.
Because getting in extra parts, if it's a old discontinued awning and you've got to buy a new one because you can't get legs for it, it's going to be a bit annoying. Just checking it.
But again, they normally get thrown into the deal, so it'll be put in a description. But again, yes, you could use it as your bartering points. Super. Next up, are we going into another Patreon story?
As you may have seen, I've just been trying to click on my laptop and I believe it's frozen.
Excellent.
So I'm stuck on Jamie Hills at the moment. So we'll carry on and hopefully that comes back.
Super. So we're working down the side of the van now. We've done the roof, we've done the awning.
Doors and windows.
Yep. Very important.
Yes. Different aged vehicles have different... so the windows in the back, typically the newer vehicles are bonded on.
Yep.
The older ones, they're typically sort of got the rubber, the H pattern rubbers, haven't they, around them? Yeah,
what are they called? Clayton Wright. That's the actual name of what's called the H pattern rubber.
Oh, okay.
And so if you've got an older van that's maybe been converted from a panel van, you get those H pattern Clayton Wright rubbers, and they can go hard and brittle, and they can shrink down over time as well. So they can be the cause of leaks.
Yep.
So definitely start looking at those. So we'll start with the older vans then, I guess. Looking at windows and doors and rubbers and stuff. Yes, like I said, they shrink. they dry up, they crack, and they can be the cause of leaks. On some of the older vans, you can find that sometimes they've been sealed up with a bit of silicone or something as a bodge repair. It would be best if they were new or at least renewed. We renew a lot of window rubbers here, don't we?
Yeah, it's one of the sort of jobs that we do quite often, because
and it's worth doing.
I think as well, because people do leave them. I don't think they realise the importance of it, and then potentially someone might buy a van that wants to look after it and goes, oh, the window rubber needs doing, and then actually when you look around them, well, they all need doing, because if they're potentially the originals or they've all been done at the same time, they're all going to age at a fairly similar rate. So it can be a particularly expensive thing to replace them all if they all need doing.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, the Clayton Wright ones aren't original to the vehicle per se, so they're not factory quality rubber. However, they're generally very good. The vehicle window rubbers themselves, again, generally they're very good. If they're not touched or disturbed, they will be fine in the vehicle. But the ones you've got to look out for, and again, we've replaced a lot on different vans, are things like door rubbers and boot rubbers, sliding door rubbers, and things like that.
They get damaged quite easily.
They get damaged very easily. They're neglected when it comes to cleaning, and they compress over time. And again, rubber gets brittle and hard over time. And we're telling you all of this not necessarily because it's a mechanical thing, but we're trying to prevent you having leaks and water ingress into your van, because if you get leaks and water ingress into your van, everything will get damp, your wooden interior will get damaged, your curtains, your carpeting, your upholstery would all get slightly dank and damaged. And you can certainly tell when a van is damp. You can just open the sliding door and you think, oof.
Yeah, and it's almost in line with what we've spoken about before, is when you're buying a vehicle, get the mechanical side of stuff done first, and then second to that, if you're buying a out-the-box interior, there's a couple and they can range anywhere between £600 and £2,000, which is a good chunk of money. If you're going to put one of those in, you want to make sure that the vehicle's watertight, because the last thing you want to do is put your nice new interior in.
Don't put it in a leaky van. Normally, though, that would get done if someone's having a respray or a repaint, but it's certainly something to consider. So the actual door rubbers, sliding door rubbers, all of which are items that are very inexpensive to replace, really. And we've done a lot of how-tos and stuff on door rubbers. We've certainly got a door rubber thing coming up as well. We've done window rubbers, again, fairly easy to replace as long as you've got, in the Clayton Wright rubbers, for example, if you've got the right tool, super easy to do, really, aren't they?
It's the right tool. Make the difference. Yeah, it's having a spare person to hold on to the glass when you're in the corners and stuff, and also buying the right rubbers. We have a supplier called Seals Direct, who are really
Seals Plus Direct,
really helpful and really good at getting the right ones. And
I've recommended a lot of people to that recently, because I always keep my eye on things like the forums and stuff. And what's funny is, obviously, we've done a lot of videos now, and if people go, oh, where do I get these rubbers from? I will say, this is where you get the rubbers from, and you can check out how to fit them on our video. And I will put
self-promotion.
It's very handy to do. But it saves a lot of ball ache in the sense that I don't have to describe step by step how to do that. I can just post a video and job done. Nice and easy. And it saves a lot of time, really. But when it also comes to windows, say if you've got a converted camper van like a Rimo or a Westphalia, your plastic double glazed windows, because a couple of the older vans came with plastic or PVC double glazed windows, they can go milky or cloudy. Not so much a bartering point, but don't be too dismayed, because they can be restored and back to life. We did that on a T4 recently, didn't we? All the windows were super scratched and cloudy, and we got them wet sanded and polished up, and they came out beautiful, didn't they? Some of them are quite hard to get hold of, the double glazed ones in particular, the Westphalia ones on some of the earlier T3s, and it's a good thing to check out if they're cracked or got pieces missing, because again, brittle goes plastic over time. So I think that's it's certainly a good point to look out for when it comes to the windows. And also in terms of security, I guess.
So
check all the mechanisms work.
That's the last thing on the outside areas. Is making sure, as you say, all the windows open, close, doors open and close. And from the inside as well, making sure the sliding door opens from the inside, because it might be something simple as it hasn't got a handle, or it might be something more.
It's an MOT failure, that as well. If you
safety,
if you have seating in the back of a van and you have no way of opening the door from the inside, for example, that's an MOT failure. And a safety feature, I guess, as well. Because you wouldn't want to be in a situation and not be able to open a door to get out. No, that's valid points there. Again, we're not concentrating on the mechanical side. However, being able to open and close a door is a very good thing. So, and again, just another point that you can tick off the list when it comes to looking around a van.
Yeah, and opening that door leads us nicely into looking at the interior.
Boom, segue, done. Yes, absolutely. So we're not concentrating on the mechanical part in the cab and all the cab controls and stuff. We are concentrating purely on the interior here. So anything from the upholstery, the hobs, the sinks, the cooker, the bed, all that sort of stuff. That's what we're going to be moving on to next. But let's have another.
Yeah, my laptop's back in the room now, so we can head back over to Patreon Corner.
Let's do it.
That's good. It's an name
Patreon
now.
Corner.
I like it. It hit me there. I feel it was quite creative. So Luke Gosling,
self-proclaimed creative mind. Yeah, go on. Luke.
I'm going to put it on my CV. He has said, "Hi, Lee and the team." I'm the team there. So
Hurrah.
that's me. We always wanted a people are looking at me in the background going, "I'm the team as well." Sorry. Ali and Izzy as well. Yep, the team. We always wanted a camper van but could never afford a partially/converted van. So we wrote the idea off. We then had the idea of looking at base vans or one with just a makeshift bed in it because they were much cheaper. Stumbled across our channel and wondered if I can convert it myself. After watching the videos, it became apparent we could actually do it ourselves, and although the electrics seemed daunting, after much deciding, they pulled the trigger on a red T4, which had a makeshift bed in it. They fully gutted it, sound deadened, insulated, carpeted, fitted the flooring and the electrics. They're now glad they went that route, because not only was it cheaper, there are no hidden surprises and know that no corners have been cut.
Well done. That is awesome. So through an absolute result of our videos, somebody's bought and converted their own van, or ripped out the partially converted van and then started all over again. Yeah, well done to you.
Yeah, and on the Patreon point of that as well, obviously these are coming from our Patreon. There's one thing they mentioned there is the electrics were something they're a bit worried about. Luke has been someone who's asked us questions about the electrics.
Absolutely, one-on-one questions. Yeah.
So yeah, if you have an area that you think, I don't want to build a van because of this, we are here to help.
And if we can't answer it, we have got lots of people in the industry that will help us or assist us in that answering those questions as well. So it pays to be a patron. Oh, there's the tagline.
Yeah, we've just made two great taglines already.
Yeah, Patreon Corner and it pays to be a patron.
Anyone writing these down? So yeah, there is Luke's, and then a quick one is a very short one. And this goes on because I was leaving this one because I knew what it's going to make me talk about, which is something we mentioned before, is Urban Arc Overland. He bought a totally blank canvas. He'd found a van, had a few extras from factory. He converted it to exactly how he thought he wanted, but it was still wrong. It's not until you use it that you know what you need. So layout number 2 is coming already, which is exactly what I'm doing at the moment with my van.
Hey!
So we have mentioned it.
What time are we on? We are at 41 minutes. Wow, 41 minutes has gone already.
It's just hit 42 minutes.
42
so,
minutes.
Yeah.
So you are about 41 and 58.
Lee's got the paperwork there. If you listened to last week, we mentioned that I've got a history of mentioning my van on this, and it was in my mind this week to not say it as much, so that's why it's taken a bit of a while. But I haven't looked at these. We had, how many was it?
We had 6 people after the result of last week's video. So I said, if you wanted to take a guess at what time Dan mentions his van, you have to comment on the YouTube video, hashtag Dan's van, and give us a time. And then we had 6 people. And the winner this week, who will win a t-shirt, is Daniel Gibbons. He estimated 35 minutes. And the earliest guess, Dan, was 12 minutes and 35. The latest was 35. So he is closest to our 41 and 55 seconds, or whatever it was. So, Daniel, get in touch and we shall send you a t-shirt. Anybody else who made a guess will receive a sticker. So anybody else who's listened to this, send us a quick message with your postcode. Sorry, with your address and postcode, and we shall send a sticker off to you. And again, that goes for next week. We shall do...
Are we carrying it over?
I don't know. Do you want to carry over? See if hashtag Dan's van follows
so
on?
restricted.
Okay, no, we'll leave it. But no, I really like that. But yes, going back to the point, Urban Arc Overland. Is that right? I've got that right.
Yes.
Here's a online buddy of ours, isn't he?
He's a very good supporter of us.
He's just bought a cap. He's just tagged us on Instagram with his cap. Looks awesome, buddy. So thanks for doing that.
It's got a big, I think, Sprinter conversion. It's quite a big vehicle. Yeah, layout number 2 is definitely the way to go. Yeah,
you've got to, and again, people who have got these vans, it's very good to, yes, maybe just throw a bed in it, get out camping in it, see what you like, especially if you're spending a lot of money building it yourself.
Yeah.
But also, again, like you said, doing the research. is a good point.
So moving on from all that, we are now in the interior of the van.
Crikey, this is going to be a long one this week.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a worthwhile one, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that you said was that you should check in the vehicle was the bed. Now, that was mainly because that is ideally...
That surprised you as well.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking in terms of what was the most important, because obviously there's some things that are more important to others. If it's got a good electrical system, if it's got a gas cooker, and obviously if the gas is badly done, that's more important. But the bed is the camper van at the end of the day, isn't it? So
if you're looking to buy a camper van, try out the bed.
Yeah.
Try out the bed, because is it a camper van without a bed in it? I don't know. I don't think it is. And the reason you're buying a camper van is so you can take it away and sleep in it. So the most important thing, in my opinion, is to pull out the bed.
Yep.
See that the mechanism works. See how easy it is to convert from a seat into a bed, and then lay on it.
Yeah.
You know, that will give you a good idea if the cushions are knackered or the upholstery's minging or whatever it may be, or the bed's just not right for me. Because again, a bed is one of those expensive things to replace, potentially. If you want to go for a crash-tested bed or a TUV-tested bed like we've just featured, the Rusty Lee beds are ones we would approve every time. And they can be expensive. It's probably, apart from a pop top, I would say good tested bed is probably the single biggest expenditure, for good reason. Because they've got to be safe, they've got to be seat belted, depending on the van again, and they've got to be comfy. So having a flat level bed that's easy to operate is like right on the top of my list. Before electrics, before gas, before that furniture, you're sleeping in that van. And if you want to take it away for good periods of time, having a good bed in that.
Yeah, and before testing it as well, just sort of visually, is the upholstery ripped? Because if that needs replacing, that could be an expense.
Yeah, you can pay anywhere between £400 and £800 to get re-upholstery done in your seat.
Yeah,
which seems ridiculous, but it's all time and materials.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing as well, is if you're wanting something really bespoke and you're maybe looking at getting that done anyway, I know people have different tastes, and there are a lot of vans being sold with bright coloured beds, which for some people it looks really cool. Other people, they might want a more neutral look. So if it's one of the things you're thinking of replacing anyway, it doesn't matter too much. But the actual frame of the bed as well, typically from what we've found, the better quality ones, they are better quality all over, aren't they? So they pull out smoother, and they don't rattle when you're there in a stationary position. It's just general stuff like that. Van. Yeah. And little stuff as well, like the cupboards underneath, have they been put together? We're going to talk more about next, but with the rock and roll beds, you can, and obviously the slide pull out beds, what's the condition like underneath in the storage area? Is that a good size space? What's under there? Can you utilise it for what you want? Because if it's not and you need to change it, that's a lot more time and expense potentially.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's the bed.
Important thing, look at the bed.
Yeah, so moving on, we've mentioned the walls, floor being damp potentially already. We mentioned it with the roof, with any leaky skylights, with around the doors. How would we easily tell if it's got severe amount of damp?
Well, I think first of all, before we get into the walls, it's what's behind the walls. Obviously, you know we are big supporters of throwing a good amount of insulation and sound deadening. So a little quick check to see whether, or at least ask the owner if you know if it's been sound deadened, and maybe even just go around the whole van tapping the panels to see whether they've actually got sound deadening. But so I think before we look at the walls and floor, definitely sound deadening. Ask about. If not, maybe just see if you can ask to do maybe a visual check behind a panel, something like that. I know the seller won't want you to tear apart their van, but sound deadening and insulation is definitely important.
Yeah, if it's got panels that have poppers on it, it's not going to take 2 minutes just to pop one.
That's right. And then moving on to the panels, obviously any signs, it will differ.
Yeah.
If it's a modern van, it's been carpeted, check the level of carpeting, if it's been done to a good standard. If it's an older van, your carpeting or your upholstery on the walls is definitely going to be degraded.
Yeah.
They can turn to dust sometimes if it's an old carpet. But again, it's an expenditure. If you want to change it, we've done it to a few vans recently, actually ripping out the interior, changing the carpet, and then putting it all back in again. It's expensive, mainly down to the labour, but it's doable. So it's not the end of the world. But you are looking for signs of damp.
Yep.
And damp can obviously show itself in different ways. Obviously, initially moisture, but then mould and just discoloration in the carpet you can look for as well. So
if it's a light grey carpet and it's a 50 shades of grey, and then it's probably
and it goes with the floor as well.
Mould and moisture in there.
Discoloured floor and blown out floors as well. Obviously, if there is a leak, the floor might be higher on one end, lower on the other. Maybe even under the bed, like you spoke about before. In some of the older vans, you can lift up the base cushion, have a check under that area in that storage compartment if it's damp or it's dirty or mouldy, whatever it may be. I've just seen a picture online today of somebody who bought this van, lifted up the bag of tent pegs or whatever it is underneath, and it's just growing stuff underneath. So you've got to look out, you've got to be aware of those sorts of things as well. At the end of the day, if you are going for an older van, you are buying a classic car as well as an apartment on wheels. So lots of different things you've got to look for.
And it's a fine line between checking stuff and destroying their van, because one thing is, if you've got the floor down and then maybe a vinyl covering over it, you can't, obviously there's our little raise in place if it's very damp, but the side step is potentially a way that you can look in and see the condition of it, especially around that area. And most side steps on newer vehicles are just those clips that pop out. So if it's at the stage where you're worried that there might be damp in the floor and there's water in there, ask maybe to pop the side step out and just have a look, because it could potentially be a bigger problem. If you've got a fully converted van and you need to rip the floor out, that's days, if not months worth of work, just doing it all over again for something.
Again, another point that we've got to cover is the floor.
Yeah.
So definitely one to look out for.
Yeah. The floor, again, not going too much into underneath the floor, but as in in the actual vehicle, it's mainly just the raising is one big key part. The floor covering, we've seen those slatted floors that have been put in. What's that called?
I want to say tongue and groove. That's not right. Laminate floor.
Laminate flooring.
Yeah, don't put laminate floor in a van.
They can be.
Just don't do it. I've done it.
Yeah.
It's a stupid idea.
Yeah.
Because the moment you get them wet, they start to bow.
Yep.
They attract dirt because you get dirt in the grooves. It's great for a house. Yep. Not so good for a camper van. Don't do it. I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah.
Don't do it. And if it's got it, just be prepared to pull it out because it's crap.
Yeah.
Especially cheaper stuff because it's made of cheaper materials. It bows, it splits. It's just crap. It scratches easily. Just leave it.
So moving on
upwards
from
and inwards. We
floor.
are looking at the interior.
Yes, that was the furniture is on the next list.
Absolutely.
Do you want to take a quick? We've got a couple more patrons. If you want to have a look at those,
one more. I'm just getting a bit
we're
concerned
getting a bit right
of the time.
Okay. Where are we at? We have Dominic Pascal. He bought the vehicle as a bike transport van. It was only carpeted. It was a bit grubby in places, which was leading us on to what we're talking about now, which is the cleanliness of it. He was fairly okay because it was from someone he knew, and he knew it was mechanically fine, and it just needed a good clean up. But if the vehicle is very clean, isn't very clean, that could potentially reflect if someone's not looking after it. It might just mean that they're still using it as a vehicle and they happen to take it down to the park yesterday and it's got it dirty. But if it's looks like long-term dirt on the floor and the walls everywhere, then you got to sort of think, have they been looking after this vehicle as well as they could have been?
Yeah.
And that goes for the furniture as well. You mentioned earlier the condition of the units.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, was that all from Dominic?
He was just saying about how he bought the vehicle as a bike transport van. It was a bit grubby, and so he started.
But not a bad basis if it's just being used to transport bikes.
Yeah, and again, it's the whole thing. He bought it from someone he knew, so
perfect.
If you trust their what they've said, then you shouldn't have too many.
But no, you're
problems.
right in what you say. So we've worked on, let's say, 100 plus vans, and it's. Well, we used to tell people to completely empty their, depending on what work we were doing, was to completely empty their vans of what's in it, so we don't spend an hour of their time and money emptying it out, and then an hour putting it all back in again neatly, and then in between that is cleaning it all because, oh my God, obviously these are people's houses / kitchens / bedrooms / bathrooms.
And when you say taking everything, you mean sort of the
food stuff, card games, tent pegs, candles, smellies. I've found all multitude of items in camper vans you don't even want to know. In fact, one of the lesser disgusting things, I'd spent a week climbing inside and outside this blooming camper van, like getting up close and personal, changing electrics and everything. And it wasn't till I was just cleaning the van ready to give back to the owner, and I found a Kama Sutra book under the driver's seat, and it was one of those, I've just been climbing it. And so, yeah, whether it had been used as a bit of a den, I don't know, but it was just one of those that, yes, I had to take a shower after that one.
I did ask you not to say the story of when you worked on my van, Lee. Oh, I'm embarrassed now.
Yeah, it was pretty grim. But yes, so cleanliness is a very good sign of, obviously, maintenance. If you're looking to buy a camper van, if it's yours to own, yes, it would be nice to include some things like pots and pans and cups and knives and forks, maybe.
Yeah.
But you don't want to buy a van with everybody's life story in it.
No.
And because it makes for some grim discoveries.
Yeah,
But no, in terms of the condition of the interior, we're looking at dirt. We're not looking at dirt. Why did I say that? We're looking at making sure it's not dirty. All the doors operate nicely. They lock and close. The drawers operate nicely as well. Again, all those things that you would do if you were buying anything else used. Just make sure it all works correctly, really. But then let's look into those items that are inside those units, such as the fridge, the hob, the sink. And again, I don't want to dwell too much on them, but it's just a case of making sure they operate correctly.
Yep.
Starting with the fridge. If it's a 3-way fridge that works on gas, 240 volt and 12 volt, give it a good test. Because who knows, the person who owned it before you may not have ever run it off gas.
Yeah.
May not have ever run it off 12 volt. They might have only ever plugged it into 240 when they get to a campsite. Again, it could be a good bartering point. Same with the hob. Does the hob work correctly? Is it clean?
Yep.
Is there a grill with that hob? And if so, do you still have the grill pan with it and the all the bars and stuff? So it's looking at things are complete, things are working, things are clean.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to teach people how to suck eggs here. It's just, I know people have been caught out. They've spent damn good money on a really nice vehicle and things just don't work.
Yeah.
And it's one of those
it might, as we've said many a times, it might not be a reason to walk away, but it's a point to think about. How much is it going to cost to get it repaired? Can you get some money off the van because of it?
I've got a classic for you, actually. It's an older T3 Type 25 van, and a person had just bought it, and they brought it round, and they said, "Can you just check the water tank for me, please? Because it just doesn't smell right, and my tap doesn't work." Turns out the previous owner had filled that water tank with diesel, thinking it was the diesel tank, and it just completely melted. And just like the water pump inside it just looked like this hot mess of plastic. Because the diesel, like the tank itself was fine, but the pump and the hose had just completely melted. It was just hanging off these two like threadbare wires.
Nasty.
Yeah.
That'd have been a nice cup of tea if it had worked, wouldn't it?
Can you imagine? So we literally had to rip the whole thing out and start afresh with a little bottle, just because the fillers. In fact, the fillers were completely on opposite sides of the vehicle, but someone had obviously just thought, that's where I put my diesel, filled this thing up with 30 litres of diesel and completely melted the pump in the meantime. So, yes, look out for things like that when it comes to utilities. Is the water, if it's got an inbuilt tank, when was it cleaned? Is it full of skanky, horrible water? Does the pump even work? Does the drainage work? Because that's just as important.
Yeah.
Is the water draining out to the van, or is it draining to a waste tank? When was the last time the waste tank was clean?
And if it's got the tanks,
got the tank,
because that's what I thought that was story was going. I thought you guys that wasn't even connected to anything.
No, we've had that too.
Yeah,
you've had that too. You empty your tank, or you pull the plug on your sink, and it just empties into the cupboard. You just think, why would you even bother? Yeah, some real horror stories we've seen.
Yeah, so on that very quickly as well, we obviously got with those appliances, you've got the gas side of it, so there's a couple of things to visually look out for that, and there's certain paperwork that you can ask if they've got it. A gas safety check's always a good one. If it's recent, that's mainly from the dealers. I don't know how many you'd get from the side of a road.
If it's a pre-built campervan, it's been built by a professional company, and I'm not saying Joe Bloggs, who's built 5 on his driveway and he's now a professional company. I'm talking about somebody who's certified, VAT registered, can provide a form of warranty, whatever it is. You need to make sure that gas install is done correctly and that it's been signed off by a certified gas installer, gas fitter, gas tester.
Yeah.
Everything that leaves here has got a gas test on it, and so it should. But if you've bought a self-build campervan, please do make sure that the gas is fitted correctly and that the gas bottle is stored correctly, because again, that's a biggie.
Yep.
People store gas bottles right next to their leisure battery. Really not a good idea.
Yep.
Really don't do that, because again, it's against the rules. It's a bit of a grey area sometimes when it comes to building camper vans, but we kind of base it on the rules and regulations that caravans and motorhomes are built to. It's slightly different in a metal framed vehicle such as a T5, T6, but motorhomes should have in vents, out vents for airflow and stuff like that. But certainly when you're storing gas, it should be in a vented, sealed chamber, and then the area should be completely tested, or the whole system should be tested by a gas checker. And the same goes for the electrics as well, and I know that's probably what you want to move on to next. Yeah,
that'll be the next thing. And with the gas as well, if you buy a camper van that hasn't got that certificate, we've recently purchased one for one of our vehicles. Arranged one.
We've had the gas test around last week, didn't we?
£70 to £80. So it's not a massive amount of money. Just for that peace of mind, it's well worth doing, especially if you're using it. So I don't know where that was going.
And maybe have a look at them with even the likes of a carbon monoxide to test.
Yes,
carbon
that's a very good one.
monoxide tester or alarm.
Yeah.
Make sure it's installed. If it's got one, make sure it's installed correctly and the batteries are in it.
Yeah.
If it's not, certainly consider one.
Yeah, 100%. So moving on to the electrics, we've split this into 12 volt and
240 for sure.
Because obviously they are,
for the most part, they are two separate entities, 12 volt, 240 volt. If you have a more advanced motorhome or more advanced build, 240 and 12 volt systems do merge.
Yeah.
But I would suggest if you have a more complex system and you are looking to purchase it, you should get a specialist to look over that.
Yeah,
or at least make sure the system is tested.
Yeah,
but
there's lots of different,
not disturb you again,
levels from that, isn't there? Because obviously you've got a very basic system that might just be a split charger and some lights and a cigarette lighter, or you might have a solar panel kit that's going to last you for 6 weeks in the wilderness. So it's a lot of variance. So the first one we're going to go on the 12 volt is, does it have a split charger?
Yes. Most camper vans, especially built, should have a form of split charge, and we've gone into split chargers in the past in more than one video. Basically, you're taking the you're taking the charge from your alternator and diverting it from the vehicle battery once the vehicle battery is fully charged. Your split charge can come in one of many different forms. Make sure it's got it. Make sure it's working. And you do that by running the engine and checking the voltage of the battery. But that would then lead us onto the battery. Make sure if you're spending good money on a motorhome or a camper van, that it's got an actual leisure battery and not just a car battery.
It's one of those points that it might not seem like a big deal, but obviously these batteries are designed to do different things. The leisure batteries are designed for releasing their power over a longer time, whereas the vehicle batteries are designed to sort of throw it all to start the engine going.
Pump out a bunch of amps real quick.
So
just so they can start a starter motor.
It's going to be a lot more efficient system if you've got a good, decent leisure battery.
Absolutely.
And as you said, just testing the voltage of it. If it's sat right down low and they've told you they've charged it up, then there's something wrong with that battery and it will need replacing, and that could be another £100 to £200 straight off the bat.
With the rest of the wiring, is that where you were going to next?
Yes, I was going to talk to you about wiring. Now we spend lots of time keeping ours nice and neat and using cable tie bays.
Wire management is big in my game. And I
it was lesson 1 at Coombe Valley Campers, wasn't it?
Definitely cable management. Be wary of self-builds out there. Even be wary of professional conversions. I've seen some horrific wiring on some conversion vans, and I'm talking, Halford-style wire terminal connectors all slammed onto a battery terminal with no fuses on a professional van. So, and then it was up to that owner who just bought that van to have it completely rewired because it just wasn't safe. Having a wiring system in a vehicle with no fuses is not safe at all. So certainly look after that. And
it's a bit of a giveaway as well, isn't it? If they have just thrown the cables in and not even use a single cable tie, and it's just in there under the bed maybe or at the back of the interior, that reflects on the level of workmanship that they've maybe done throughout. And have they then spent time making sure everything's tightened up?
Yeah, if it's very untidy on the areas that you're looking, you can only imagine how bad it is on the areas you can't see.
Yeah.
So, very important to check that the wiring's there, it's neat, it's tidy, it's using good terminations on the wiring. Absolutely. Have a look over it. And if you're not sure at what you're looking at, take somebody who knows electrics, knows automotive electrics.
Yeah, auto electricians.
Because I know
and
a
stuff,
lot. We've had customers in who are household electricians and give us camper vans for us to do the wiring on the 12-volt system.
Yeah.
That's not unheard of.
Yeah.
Because they don't know enough about it. They don't pretend they know enough about it. They just give it to somebody who knows. So if you are unsure, make sure you either take a form of testing equipment with you or ask somebody who knows what they're looking at.
Yeah, and you mentioned briefly fuses.
Yes.
That's a very important area because obviously if they're not there, it can lead to lots of problems. Now, the fuse box, you'd want to have a look at that as well.
Yeah.
Make sure they're all there. They're not all blown because if all the fuses are blown, that could be an issue.
For the most part, 12-volt electrics isn't going to kill you, but it can cause a hell of a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Now, I was one of the Instagram pages I follow, the cable tie technician. He's a professional vehicle converter and coach builder up in Kent. And he did just an Instagram story of cable management, and he said the same. It's so important for decent cable wiring, routing, management, because if you have a live cable that shorts itself onto a bit of vehicle bodywork, then and if it's an electrical system that's got no fuses in, there's a fire right there. And if you've just spent good money on a camper van with no fuses in, and it then burns down, who's that down to? It's probably down to you if you've not checked it. So,
and it's with that sort of thing as well, it makes it easier for you long term. Like we worked on a vehicle probably about a year ago now where the cable at the front of the vehicle was blue, then halfway through it changed to green, and at the end it was red.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I spent hours on that just trying to work out what was what, because none of the earths were the same colour and there was no consistency with it as well. So if you're buying a vehicle and the electrics look really messy and untidy, it's only going to cause you more problems down the line. And trust us, we've found out the hard way about one with vehicles that have come in, and it's just like, where do you start? And obviously again a safety point of that with earth consistency and stuff like that. So that is one to be sort of definitely have a look at. That is pretty much it on the 12-volt, unless you've thought of anything else. That's all the points I've written.
To extend the 12-volt side, if you've got solar panels fitted, just make sure they are fitted correctly and they have a form of controller. You don't want to wire a solar panel in directly to the battery in any way, shape or form. It has to go through a form of controller first.
Yep.
Because the voltage that comes out of a solar panel can vary.
Yes.
It can go as high as, say, 20 volts, maybe more, and be as low as 11, maybe less. And you can't just pump that voltage and that current directly into a leisure battery. It has to be managed to be a consistent level all the way through. And that's why it's worth getting a good controller for that leisure battery system.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're doing, don't bother.
Yep.
But if it's got the solar panels, just make sure it's fitted right.
Yep, 100%. Now moving on to 240, and I'm going to put the cat among the pigeons here with the whole classic. It's advertised it's got a 240 system installed, and it is a Audi special buy, 20 quid extension lead. Now, I personally haven't heard any horror stories of those yet. I mean, on the outside of them, what they are is they're doing a similar job, but they're not the same.
Yeah. So, yes, a camper van has if it's got a 240 volt system, that should be a hardwired wiring system, much like a house.
Yep.
But mounted and earthed correctly within your vehicle.
Yeah.
You provide power to that 240 volt system in your van via a hookup lead. It can be 5, 10, 15, 20 metres. And you plug that hookup lead on one end into your campsite where they've got the hookup, and the other side into the side of your van. So you're dealing with potentially deadly 240 volt electrics plugging it into the side of your metal box.
Yeah.
Your van. And it's got to be safe.
Yeah.
I'm not going to elaborate too much. If you don't know what you're looking at, don't.
Yep.
Make sure you've got, and if it's coming from a dealer, make sure it's got a form of test certification, or it's been fitted by a qualified technician, electrician.
Yeah,
that's it.
Because that is.
I don't want to go too much into it because there is a multitude of things when it comes to 240, but it is deadly in the wrong hands.
Yeah, so if it's got a system in there, get it checked. And yeah, that goes for the gas as well, doesn't it? Gas and 240 is one that's come up a lot of times.
Especially if you mix the same two in the same little box, that's for sure.
Yeah. With a cigarette lighter as well thrown in there.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that is most of our points mainly covered.
Yes, not an exhaustive list.
No.
But a big list. We would say they are the key items that you've got to look for when considering buying a camper van.
Yep.
I believe it is a good list to start you off. And it's a good list to check if you are looking at bartering points as well.
Yeah.
If you are on a budget, you could potentially use all those points against the vehicle. However, these items can be repaired potentially.
Yep.
You can reinstall electrics. You can
we've
reinstall
kind
gas.
of, as we've gone along there, we've sort of started to estimated prices of a lot of these things to give us a clue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what it was doing is sort of smashing those rose tinted glasses straight off onto the floor and going, right, you're looking at a van. Don't just think, oh, that's amazing. Think about these points. And yeah, as you mentioned, my homework now is to go and make a blog of this.
Yes.
So there's
So by Friday we want to complete. No, I'm joking.
Friday,
but I'm not. I want this into a list by Friday, Dan.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Friday,
joking.
Tuesday morning. So yeah, that is definitely something to think about.
A lot of information there.
Yeah.
If we can get a list out to you in time to check at the same time, we may be able to. I'm not going to promise it though.
Yeah, it'll be on the to-do list, and it'll be something that.
But certainly, if you
released.
need to re-listen to this podcast and have a pen and paper with you for the meantime, it's definitely a good list to check against.
Yeah.
For when it comes to considering buying your dream camper van, for sure.
Yep. And going back to what we spoke about last week, if you have a friend that owns a camper van or is in
At
the
least
trade,
has some experience
of what to look out for, then take them along with you as well, because having that, it's almost that sort of person to hold your hand a little bit and just sort of, they won't be getting as excited as you. If you're looking at a vehicle and getting all like, oh, wow, they might be looking at it and going, oh, God, and then take you aside and go, you'd realise what this is. So we're not saying that every van's going to be awful, but it's just these things that you need to look out for just to protect yourself.
And at this moment in time, vans and camper vans especially are at a premium.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who are there to maybe rip you off. I don't want to sugarcoat it. There are people out there who want to make a quick buck from a camper van, and so they will lash up a crap van in shiny paint, make you fall in love with it, and in reality, we've seen it even in the last year.
Yeah.
We had a very unfortunate case where somebody had spent a lot of hard-earned on what presented itself as a beautiful camper van, and it was nothing but a turd on wheels. Was it really? It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible.
90% filler, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was.
It had a fairly good engine, but that was only because they spent loads of money on that engine in the end. But it was a death trap.
Yeah.
Such a shame. And we just don't want that to happen to you people. Please don't go in there with your rose tinted specs on. Just put your sensible hat on. Look at this as not only a camper van, but an apartment and a classic car potentially, and something that you may have to spend a lot of money on, so just be sensible with it.
Yeah. And it also, if you're looking at a vehicle that's only just been converted as well, that doesn't mean it's perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are all tests that you need to do to every vehicle.
And if you're buying that built camper van from a dealer or an alleged dealer, make sure maybe they're a VAT registered company for sure. And that they have a form of warranty, because a lot of dealers out there are selling used vans too, and they may not have done the checks that we've spoken about today. So let's consider that too.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Next week's episode.
I look forward to this because we're going to have another guest on.
Yes, we're going to delve into online conversations. We managed to do it pretty well last week. It went well, didn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it was really nice to have Ryan in and talk about the pros and cons of buying a van from a dealership for the most part, and just buying a vehicle and what to look out for.
Yeah.
But next week, we're moving on. So you've bought your dream van.
In theory.
You've bought your dream camper van in theory, and next week we're going to tell you how to make it look like $1 million. We're going to tell you how to clean it, all the products to use, and we're going to have a special guest.
Absolutely. And that will apply to if you've bought a project as well, because if you've watched our YouTube channel, the first thing we ever do when we get a new vehicle in is give it a good clean.
Yeah,
because
it comes to jet wash, scrub and brush.
And it gives you a better idea of what you're left with as well.
Absolutely. You get to know a vehicle once you cleaned it.
Yeah.
But for today, I think that's all done.
Yep. I have
Go on.
I've tried to perfect the ending a little bit.
Go.
The last week I said I was going to write a little speech. I haven't quite written a little speech because I thought,
Hold tight, people.
Yeah.
It's coming.
I just little few points that I think we should mention at the end of every podcast.
I'm ready.
So yeah, this has been the Campervan cast. You're looking.
I'm very excited.
Proud dad sat over there, isn't it? It's like my big moment. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed the podcast, then please give it a thumbs up on YouTube or give it a review, however you're listening, and share it with a friend if you know they'll be interested as well.
Absolutely. Congratulations. No, that was really good.
Yeah.
And also consider subscribing.
Yes.
And if you'd like to support the channel in any way,
I missed stuff.
if you'd like to support the channel, please head over to www.coomvalleycampers.co.uk and take a look at our Patreon page.
Absolutely.
Where you can become a Patreon, as we've discussed. We've had a couple of Patrons tell us about their stories today. And also, if you're watching this and you like my hoodie, or if you looked at previous episodes and you've liked my hat, or even the hoodie that Dan's wearing right now, you can buy your very... I couldn't see the logo. I didn't know you were wearing us. Yes, you can go and buy a piece of our merch from there as well, or even the stickers.
Absolutely, it all helps out. Again, briefly, quickly going on to it, if you got involved in the competition, don't forget to send us your details.
Yeah, we will be getting in touch with people when we can find them, but in the meantime, if your name is Daniel Gibbons and you've correctly guessed at 35 minutes, then yeah, ping us a message straight away.
Wicked. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel, and a thank you to everybody listening. It's going really, really well so far. Well, it is from here. Thanks again.